Greetings. Welcome to the Prog Aficionado. If you're here, I take it that you like good music. You've probably also seen yourself having a dwindling member of social friends because of your taste in music has gone beyond what the average Joe might have. So we're here today to talk about progressive rock, of course. There are the big six of progressive rock. That's not up for debate. It's not something that I coined, so there's no point in coming back to me and saying, "Oh, I'd include this in the big six or that in the big six." It's beyond my ability to change who these big six are. So we're going to have a look at the big six, and people who are into progressive rock, I find, are usually very curious people, and they're into exploration, and they're into finding things in music and all sorts of things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initially introduce the big six, and then I'm going to go on from there to where you might take it to explore other avenues in this wonderful music that we all love. So I've kind of got the kind of iconic album, we'll say, for each of the big six. Now with Pink Floyd, the behemoth of the big six, I have The Wall. Okay, so you might have fallen in love with Roger Waters' lyrics, his outrage at the world and everything like that, and feel that it reflects some of your feelings. Wonderful guitar playing of Dave Gilmour, that emotional playing of his and how that comes across. The whole band, fantastic, very explorative. Then we go on to the kind of the wonderful beauty of Yes. I've picked out Tales from Topographic Oceans because I believe that they actually stretched the envelope so far on that album that it almost broke. And it was a turning point for the band themselves, and they had to think about what they were going to do going forward. Next one, Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. Great album, one track the whole way through, telling a crazy story. What we get with Jethro Tull is this wonderful humour and quirkiness and everything, and very Britishness in the music. Then we have the absolute bombast and majesty of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I've taken brain salad surgery to represent them because it is just an incredible album. This is a new copy of it that I bought recently, and it just blows my mind. It's just the fourth copy of it I've had. We've got like the kind of granddaddies of it all, King Crimson. I've put the first album up here because that seems to be the one that had like an impact on other bands around the place and everything, and helped to kind of codify a kind of formulaic approach to prog. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, and maybe we'll discuss it in another video. Okay, and then with Genesis, I chose The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Again, one of these albums that was made that pushed the envelope a bit, maybe a bit too far, and broke it with the band. Last album that Peter Gabriel was on. So what do I do after that? I'm after buying everything that I can by these bands. Where do I go from here? So I was trying to think about it as in a dimensional approach. So what can we do? What dimensions can we move in? We can go up, we can go down, we can go right, we can go left, etc., etc. So the first thing that I would say is to go down, go deeper into prog, and see what that would bring. So I suppose a kind of a quick one on that would be something I dig into, something like Camel, Mariah Shear, fantastic album. Caravan, bit of Canterbury Scene, The Land of Grey and Pink, fantastic album again. Sense of humour, English quirkiness, all that sort of thing. If I want to go a little bit darker, then I've got Van der Graaf Generator, take me into some real dark places in my mind, bring me off to places maybe sometimes we don't really want to go, okay? Can be a little bit unsettling, okay? So then we get into Gentle Giant, very technical, very interesting band. A lot of prog, but not so much rock. A lot of kind of medieval type sounds and things going on with this band. Very interesting band though, well worth checking out. So we're digging in further, and then we get to a band that I really love, one of the first kind of prog bands that I ever got into, which was Renaissance. And here we have Turn of the Card. Fantastic album, brilliant album, well worth checking out. So we're kind of expanding by digging further and further into that. Another guy that was associated with Canterbury scene is Mike Oldfield. He's more than just Tubular Bells, so you can dig into him a lot further. There's a fantastic catalogue of work that this man has brought out. Absolutely amazing guy. Okay, so if I dig in, it'll lead me into all there. They're just a few introductory bands. You can go further and further and further and as deep as you want to in that. So where do I go then? I've gone deep down into it. What's another dimension I can go in? I can come up. I can come out of it. So if I go up, I start to go into things that are maybe a little bit less proggy, prog adjacent to some people say, things that are a bit lighter, etc., etc. Manfred Mann's Earth Band, Solar Fire, fantastic album here, love it, absolutely great. So I'm coming up out of the actual prog kind of mire itself, which would be great. Maybe you might get to talk to normal people if you do this. Time Honoured Ghost, Barclay James Harvest, fantastic album, another great band. You can come up out of it and listen to some of them. Band I really kind of love and kind of always were around there, but kind of dug into them a lot over the last few years is Argent. This album, Nexus, actually extremely proggy, but most of their albums are kind of rock with a kind of slight element of prog in there, I would say. Okay, another band a lot of people tend to get into that are kind of on the periphery of it, Supertramp. Don't know if they're prog or if they're not prog. There's a lot of kind of questions and thoughts about that going around the place. All I know is they make pretty good albums. So Crime of the Century there. Band that I really loved that were kind of out there a lot of the time when I was quite young was Family. I remember them on the television a lot. So here we have a song for me, great album, opens with the classic Drowning in Wine or Drowned in Wine. Fantastic album, really good stuff. Band that never really kind of reached their full potential, and I don't just mean that in album sales, but I think there was a lot more and deeper stuff within that band that they never really brought to the fore. Okay, and then we're going north of the border. You might have noticed like nearly everything there is all English so far, you know, because like most of this movement kind of came from the English home counties. Then we go north of the border into Scotland, the Beggars Opera. This is a lovely pressing of this. It's actually on the vertical swirl. There must be something great about a band that actually has Virginia Scott there, and her job is just playing the mellotron. says a lot about her. Great album, great band, love it. Love the track Time Machine off that. So there we've gone down deeper into prog, or we can come up out of it and kind of go into more interesting rock music that is kind of touching on the prog element. So where do we go from there then? So I've got down, so then I can go sideways. I can go either way I want to go. So what happens with that? Well, geographically, does everything need to be from the UK or whatever? No, it doesn't. So let's take a trip and we go off to Europe. And one place like that, there's an awful lot of prog and like a lot of talk about it is Italy. So with bands like Bonko, fantastic, great stuff, really kind of open, wonderful, you know, takes you off on a beautiful journey. PFM, I won't try and say the full name in Italian now, I will. Premiata Forneria Marconi. Now, pardon me for my pronunciation, but that's the best that I can do of it. I bought one of their albums when I was quite young by just the look of it or whatever. Probably about 16 or 17 at the time. Been a fan ever since. Love them. Great band. Go off to Holland, then doesn't all have to be Italian. Go to Holland, Focus. It's Focus 3. I think it's an American issue of it. Fantastic album, like fantastic band. I mean, they have an output of albums. There's probably about 4 of them that I would rate as like really up there with the best of prog. Band that doesn't get talked about enough too from Holland that I think are absolutely amazing is Earth and Fire, and this is their album Atlantis, and it's the first time Atlantis is making a is making a an appearance in this video, shall we say, the myth of Atlantis. Fantastic album, fantastic band. 3 of their albums, all of them are brilliant. What's the name of that one? Song of the Marching Children is just amazing, actually. So then we can go to France. France, very interesting prog coming out of France. This is Pulsar, the album Pollen. Very, very atmospheric, great stuff. Of course, France then is the home of Zool music and that kind of branch of prog, and where would be without Magma, then the inventors of Zool, with the album Mechanic Destructive Commando, which is an absolute classic. I mean, you could actually set up a religious cult based on this album. There's only a few albums that you can do that video on that coming up, by the way, as well. Here's our second visit to Atlantis then, because now we're going into Germany, and we've got Eli Ocean. Fantastic album again, The Myth of Atlantis. Eli, fantastic band. The amount of absolutely great albums these guys did is incredible. Brilliant band, absolutely great. Sometimes you haven't been slagged off because of the vocalist. He sings in quite a German accent, heavy German accent. No problem with that. Come on, get with it, Then another band from Germany that I really dig is Grabschnitt. This is Rock Pommelsland. It's kind of a big concept album about a kid like going off on the back of a bird and everything. I have a few of their albums, love them all. It's a great kind of sense of humour and everything to their work, which I love. I think prog really needs to have that sense of humour about it. I think sometimes people take it too seriously, and sometimes you see bands and they start with a sense of humour and then they slowly lose it. And as they lose the sense of humour, they lose they lose that connection with people, I think. But it doesn't all have to be in those countries. We can go to other countries in Europe as well. Off to Sweden, Bo Hansen, The Magician's Hat here. Brilliant album. Great keyboard player, Bo Hansen. Fabulous guy. Did some really good albums. I've got 3 of his albums. I think they're all really good. And then we could go to Hungary with Omega or whatever the proper pronunciation of the word is. Absolutely incredible band. I was just listening to Omega yesterday. The Time Robber. What an album that is. I mean, fabulous band. Brilliant. Great stuff again. So we've travelled into Europe and we've discovered all these other bands. And then I hear these voices coming from the new world across the Atlantic Ocean. So if we go across to America, then what do we have? One guy that I haven't got in here that, I just kind of took 5 albums from each one. I just didn't have room to put in. Todd Rundgren, Utopia. What an amazingly progressively minded artist he is. Not everybody did his prog, but some of it has huge progressive edges on it, and some of it is prog, Kansas, first album, brilliant. Kansas were fantastic. They produced some really, really great proggy pieces of work. The only band that I ever kind of listened to that I could listen to a 5-minute song by him, and I feel like I'm after listening to something that's 20 minutes long. Dense, full of lovely twists and turns, incredible. A band that I got into a few years ago and went absolutely mad into, still love them to bits, is Chicago. Couple of their albums, I would say, are just absolutely wonderful and progressive. This one, Chicago 7, and Chicago 3 are probably my favourites because they really, really go off into some interesting places on this. I've always been a fan of brass and things like this. I grew up living very close to a very famous saxophonist in Ireland, a guy called Mick Delahunty, who was he played in Carnegie Hall and all sorts of things like this. And I used to go and talk to him when I was a young guy, playing a bit of bass guitar and things, and he was always a really nice guy, but like he kind of introduced me to that concept of like really good brass in a song, and just Chicago having it in spades, and just brilliant band, great chords and things. It's really unusual, fantastic. Starcastle, I think kind of underrated. I think they only did two decent albums. This is the second one, Fountains of Light. Often slagged off for being too Yes-like. Yeah, I kind of get a bit of it. But they're not just trying to copy Yes or anything. They have their own thing. Um, Great band, great album. I kind of find myself listening to that a lot actually the last few days. Not the last few days, last few months, I suppose. Rush, I've just got Grace Under Pressure, just pulled down any Rush album, but like, you know, there's a spate of albums, we'll say, from 2112 up to Moving Pictures and beyond that are, you know, very much in that prog element, but the idea of this video is kind of expand your tastes a bit beyond that and go into slightly different things that might pull you in other ways as well. Okay, so luckily enough, when it comes to something like prog, we don't just have to kind of physically move and geographically move, like forward, backwards, deeper into the thing, up out of it. You know, what's in Europe, what's in America. We can travel in time too. So we go back into the past and the early days of prog, and I just think this was an amazing time back in the 60s and things. So we've got albums like Shine On Brightly by Procol Harum, which is like, you know, credited as one of the first, if not the first, epic, and I can see the structure of following epic tracks coming from that. The Nice came out the same year, Ars Longa Vita Brevis, another sidelong epic on this one again. Very interesting band, absolutely great energy, great humour as well, like, you know, really worth checking out. Colosseum, very not a big discography, but the Valentine Suite is just a must. I mean, fantastic album. 1969, year later, sidelong epic, fantastic piece of music, the Valentine Suite. The album that set the vocabulary for progressive rock, really, in my opinion, is the Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. Absolutely amazing piece of work. When I'm listening to this, it's like I've got to kind of, you know, close the curtains, turn off the telephone, put my feet up, and just go on the journey with it. It's just fantastic. And I love the fact that it's a circular journey. Begins with a gong sounding, ends with a gong, brings us back to the start again. And you hear that in some pieces of music. The Wall that we had earlier brings us back on the circle again. But fantastic album, Days of Future Past, Moody Blues. I have a bit of an odd one here that I just thought I'd throw in anyway, was Crazy World of Arthur Brown's first album. Definitely a contributor to prog again. The first side of this is a song cycle, 1968. This was again. He's got the great Vincent Crane on here. In his, you know, Vincent had a lot of kind of problems. He had a lot of issues. Not a nice story. But on this album, he seems to be firing on all cylinders, and he gives it his all. He does arrangements with orchestral arrangements. He does all sorts of stuff. Fantastic, really interesting. I love that first side, and apparently the second side was going to be more of the same, but Kit Lambert was producing the album and he made them pull back a bit on the second side. But like, what an amazing album, and definitely a big contributor to prog. So that's us moving back in time. So what can we do then? We can move forward in time. So if we move forward in time, what do we get into? We get into the 80s, neo-prog. We have things like Marillion. Huge fan of them at the time when they came out. Fugazi, an album that really kind of had punched me hard when I was a young lad. We've got Palace here with The Sentinel. Fabulous, great album. Remember when this came out, big buzz about it again. You've got albums by IQ, the Enid, all sorts of stuff at that time. But like, unfortunately, as I said, I haven't time to go through all of them. So I'm going to change format for the last couple of things. So then we've got New Prog, which came out in the 90s, going into the noughties. There was a lot of kind of new prog around. Octavarium by Dream Theater, fabulous album. Here we go now, dear. Okay, Opeth were doing some fantastic stuff at that time, and In Coda Venenum. Pardon my pronunciation if you're Roman. I think it's Latin. Fantastic album, brilliant band, fantastic band. Loved. I saw them live loads of times around that time. It was brilliant, fantastic. And yeah, I mean, then we can, those super groups coming out of that time, and then Transatlantic there with the Whirlwind, all these sort of things. So there's our dimensions that we can go in. So we can go in deeper and discover lots of other prog. We can come up out of it and like get into kind of stuff that has a kind of proggy feel to it, but might be in the rock genre. And in that, then we can discover all sorts of things, like different things in classic rock that we might have missed out on, or we could discover things like jazz fusion and things like that as well. Okay, and then we can go geographically and discover there's prog all over the world. There's stuff, I've got stuff here from Latin America and everything, all sorts of prog. And then we've got, we can go into the USA, and there was all sorts there as well. North America, Canada, fantastic stuff out there. Of course, what you can also do is you can stick with the bands that you really love. If you're kind of one of these brand association peoples and you just love the brand of the band, and you can keep buying the albums they made even after they became a bit not so nice, so as an example of that. Yes, I fell for it at times as well. Yeah. So yeah, so there's all sorts of different ways that we can go. They're just 4 of those dimensions. So this is the first of a series of videos on these things. I'm going to delve into each of these areas deeper and deeper, actually, and I'm going to go off on the journey. I'd like you to join me on that journey. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing, setting the bell notification, give a like to the video, hype it, do whatever you can. And that's all I'm going to ask you. I'm not one of these guys who's going to try, what would you call it, commercializing this channel. It's more of a social thing. And what I want you to do is, in the comments, if you could, let me know what way you went. Did you go deeper? Did you come up out of it a bit? Did you go wider or whatever? Of course, my answer to that is all of the above. So I hope you'll join me. Come on the journey. I've got, I'm going to be digging deeper and deeper into these things, and hope to see you all in the next video. So until then, bye-bye.